What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I think is the best loadout in Fortnite Zero Build 4 Chapter 2 Remix. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite setup to use is in Remix. So I'm going to go through the first few items fairly quick because I think they're somewhat straightforward. For my main two weapons, I'm going to be using the regular AR and the pump shotgun. So personally, I really don't like the burst AR. It feels very slow and very clunky to me in Chapter 2 Remix. And then the suppressed scar is a very good rifle, but it's a very interesting rifle at the same time because the way this weapon works is it has a little bit of, it has like less spread increase per shot than like the regular AR or the scar, but it has a higher max bloom. So if you just full spray the suppressed scar, it's going to be a terrible weapon for you. But if you like tap fire or burst it, it's going to be pretty solid. And I'm sure a lot of people would hear that and think, okay, that's a great option. I'll just be kind of controlled with how I shoot the gun and then we'll be good to go. But the thing is, it also has terrible hip fire. If you're hip firing this weapon, it doesn't fare very well. And since I only want to use two normal weapons and I want to use the pump, the suppressed scar really just doesn't fit that playstyle. But if you don't mind using the TAC, or maybe you want to use an SMG, I think the suppressed scar can be good. You just have to use it properly. So I'd like to use the regular AR and the pump shotgun. I will use the TAC at times if it's just much better than the pump I have available. Like if I have a green pump and a purple TAC, I'm probably going to use that purple TAC. But if rarity wasn't a factor and I'm just picking what I want to use, it's probably going to be the pump. The TAC is very good though, and if you like using the TAC and you prefer the TAC to the pump, I don't think that's the worst thing ever. I think they're fairly well balanced between each other, especially in Zero Build. There's times where the TAC is very solid, and it really just comes down to your preference and playstyle. And then the Meowscles heavy AR that you can get from the yacht, I think is also quite good if you want to use that instead of a regular AR. I don't think that's a bad choice at all. The weapon is really, really good, but as far as just regular weapons go, it's going to be the pump and the AR for me. For heals, I would like to have big pots. I would like to have them. It's hard to get shield in Chapter 2 Remix, so you might just have to use what you can get. But if I had the choice of carrying minis, big pots, or a chug jug, I'm gonna take the big pots since I prefer to carry one healing item. If I am carrying two for some reason, then I don't mind one of them being the chug, but I don't like carrying that as my only heal option. And then slurpfish are in the game as well, but it's very difficult to get a full stack of them, and so I find that unlikely. But if I was to happen upon a full stack of them, then sure. But more often than not, big pots are going to be my healing item. And then I also, as far as mobility goes, I would really like to have the grappler. As of the time I'm recording this, the two mobility options are grappler or impulse grenades. And the grappler is hands down better than the impulse grenades. It's no question about it. I've seen people saying they're having a hard time getting enough grapplers to last them the game. And the thing about the grappler that's really nice is that if you eliminate somebody, their grappler will drop fully loaded. So they could have one grapple left in their, grappler. If you eliminate them, it's going to drop with 20. So if you are having a hard time keeping the grappler going throughout the course of the game, I would highly recommend trying to recycle it off people you eliminate. And then also cars are incredibly good for mobility this season, and I would recommend using cars as well to travel around the map. You also have a mobile point of cover, which is good. So if you're using cars, you're probably not going to have to like just spam grapple all over the place. And then there's also rifts as well. So if like you're using the cars and the rifts to your advantage, you shouldn't have to just spam grapple around the map to travel, and then you can kind of use your grappler more for, movement in a fight and have it available for that and not just have it completely gone getting from point A to point B. But either way, I think the grappler is the best mobility item. You just got to kind of make a point of, managing it and, refreshing it on eliminated opponents. And so those are our 4 slots so far. For like a standard loadout, I'm going to have the AR, the pump, big pots, and the grappler. Now we have one final spot remaining, and I think this is where it really just comes down to preference. I think there's a lot of good options here. I think the best is going to be the boom bow that you can get from TNTina at the rig. This is probably the most overpowered thing in Zero Build right now. It can hit people through cars if the player in the car is within the blast radius of where the arrow lands. And you might think, okay, it'll hit through a car, no big deal. It hits for 100 through a car. So 2 arrows onto a car, that person has 50 health left if they were a full HP opponent. You only need 1 more to hit them. And it does a lot of damage to the car, so you're probably going to blow the car up anyways and kill them that way. So the boom bow completely counters cars. And you can also shoot it next to people's cover. If you know someone's kind of playing behind a tree or a rock, you can angle it properly, hit it behind them or next to them, and again, deal 100 splash damage. So the splash damage on this isn't like diminishing over time. If they're in the blast radius of the bow, they get hit for 100. So, and as far as ammo goes, it goes off shotgun shells. So the boom bow is just incredible. Cars are really good in zero build, like I talked about, and this just completely counters cars. Also counters people playing off of cover, which is going to happen a lot. It's one of the best items in the game right now, and I would recommend trying to get this. Snipers are also obviously amazing with how limited the ARs are in range and accuracy. So if I don't have a boom bow, snipers are another good choice. RPGs are another item that's just always devastating, and if you hit someone with a rocket, that's like 130 damage, I think. Basically, a lot of damage on the opponent. It helps get rid of people playing passive round cover, anything. The RPG is really good. Boogie bombs are also something that will give you a huge advantage in a fight, and pretty much any time boogie bombs are in the loot pool in zero build, they've been one of the best items in the game, and this season is no different. The boogie bombs are very good, and if you hit somebody with a boogie bomb, that should be a fight that you end up winning. You also can boogie bomb cars and, you know, knock people out of the cars. You can hit it off people playing right shoulder peek. So a lot of items like this kind of work in the same way. Like boogies, RPGs, and the bow, you can all kind of like splash damage people with and kind of damage people, or, you know, win fights in situations where the opponent might think they're safe. And then boogies and the bow also completely counter cars. Another item that's just incredible and like really high value right now is going to be the portaforts. With this map having a lot of open space and end game playing out incredibly slow this season, being able to have a portafort in the end game is a huge advantage, and it kind of makes it to where you aren't really at the mercy of zone and everyone else is. One problem is if you put a fort down, other people are probably going to want to push you and take it, but it's still probably better to have a position of advantage than just like playing and hoping things go your way while you're like hiding somewhere, you know? So I like carrying the portaforts. You can also just use them in fights, you know, like you don't have to save them for end game. In a mid game fight, in an early game fight, a portafort can completely change the tide of it and just win you the fight. You can use it indoors if you know someone's camping a building and kind of like catch them by surprise with it. I think the portaforts, obviously everybody knows it's really good because it's a piece of cover in a map that doesn't have the most cover, and that's obviously going to be huge. But the way you can use it in fights, I think, will surprise a lot of people and get you a lot of easy eliminations, or eliminations in a way that's safer than it would have been otherwise. And then the final item I want to talk about is going to be the scoped AR. I'm not the biggest fan of this item, but it is solid. I just wouldn't want to use it instead of my normal AR, because the thing about the scoped AR is it has a really slow fire rate. It's not going to combo with a shotgun that well. But even if someone's like, you know, 20 to 30 meters away, I really don't want to use the scoped AR for that fight. If they're like past 50 meters, then the scoped AR is going to be quite good. And so I don't want to replace my standard AR with the scoped AR, but using it in this slot can be good. It definitely has value, and it's a very solid item. It's not bad by any means. I just think it's more niche, not as versatile, and so it's not my favorite thing to use. But it can go in this slot well, and if you are someone who enjoys using the scoped AR, or you really hate how limited the ARs are in range, then the scoped AR can be fine. And that's kind of what I think a lot of people struggle with this season, is that what do you do with this final slot? And I think it really just comes down to preference and playstyle. If you're really good at sniping, then snipers are going to be a good choice. If you're not good at sniping and you happen to find boogie bombs that game, they're going to be a good choice. If you happen to find an RPG that game, that's going to be solid. If you happen to find portaforts, that's going to be solid. If you want to go to the rig and get the bow, or you just happen to eliminate the player who has it, that's going to be solid. Like I find myself making this final choice just kind of based on what I have available to me in the game and what I feel like using in that moment. It's not like there's just one clear cut and dry answer. If I was, you know, just concerned about winning, I would probably land at the rig and try to get the bow, because I think it's very good, but I don't like landing there that much, so I don't land there that frequently. And so I end up using the other stuff too. And I think there's a lot of, you know, different choices for that slot that all just kind of have different strengths and weaknesses and different play styles associated with them. So I think you can really do whatever you want in that slot, or you could, you know, end up running the drum gun and comboing that with the pump or one of the SMGs, extra heals. I think there's a lot of choices you can make this season. As always, if you guys did find this video to be helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.